All right. Hello, my name is Ashley Lindsay. I use she, her pronouns, and I work in the Office of Alumni and Family Engagement. The Falcons of the Last Decade Fold Board presents Falcons in Flight, a virtual life skills series for young alumni, but of the benefit to all Bentley community members. Gain essential tools and knowledge to thrive after college with discussions on financial literacy, career development, personal wellness, and communication skills. Today, we'll focus on a concept coined durable skills and how employers support these skills, how you can leverage them for yourself. First, we'll hear from Bentley staff who assists with the BentleyPlus program, and in the second half, we'll fold in a current student and a young alum perspective into a discussion. There's a lot for us to pack into this hour, so you're welcome to use the Q&A box, the chat box to drop in any questions, comments, and we'll try to squeeze in any questions in towards the end. I know some folks submitted them in advance, so we're going to weave them in. And for those who have any other things that you want to share but we don't address, we can follow up after. Now I'd like to turn it over to Jared and Lauren to introduce themselves and dive into their presentation segment for today's program.
Ashley, thank you so very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all, and good afternoon to everybody that's on the webinar. My name is Jared Berman. I use the he series of pronouns. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Affairs Strategic Projects in the Office of the Vice President of Student Affairs.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Lauren Hubachek. I serve as the Assistant Vice President and Dean of Campus Life here at Bentley. Excited to talk to you a little bit about Bentley Plus, what's been going on and where we're headed with the program in the future, and share a little bit about how we continue to explore Bentley Plus and its engagement with students and alums.
Thanks, Lauren. So I'm going to take a moment to share my screen. And I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but I was just taking a gander at the attendees list. Special shout out to, I think, one of my former students who's on the call, Julia. So Julia, if that's you, hello there. But going to share my screen and just walk through a little bit of the Bentley Plus program with you all. All right. So, Lauren, do you see this okay?
I do.
Perfect. Awesome. Awesome. So, like Ashley mentioned and Laura mentioned, we're going to just talk a little bit about the Bentley Plus program here on campus, which has been around now for a few years. And it's, I'm very proud to share that in my current capacity, I've been able to lead this program for the last 2 years. And we've seen some wonderful growth in the number of students who have engaged in the Bentley Plus program, but also going to just take a moment to share a little bit about how we got started with the Bentley Plus program, what the competencies or what those durable skills are that we're asking our students to focus on, and then we'll go through what a year in the program looks like. So I'm going to, we have a little video here, and I'm hoping that the volume will come through. So we'll just do a quick little video here to introduce the Bentley Plus program.
You want to turn the captions on, perhaps, Jared? The video's not coming through.
Oh, all right. Let me stop sharing real quick, and then I will reshare, make sure that I've got the volume settings on. I apologize. Share sound. All right, let's try that again.
Bentley Plus, a program that lets you take charge and develop the right skill sets for your future success. Guided by our advisors, you'll discover both your strengths and areas to improve on. You'll be able to select from a list of 11 competencies that top employers have named essential to your success. We'll show you how the activities you're already involved in can help you grow. And we'll connect you with other campus opportunities to better refine your skill sets. With Bentley Plus, You'll learn how to be strategic when developing competencies, both inside and outside the classroom, and how to communicate those marketable skills so that future employers take notice. Get the most out of your Bentley experience. Get certified with Bentley Plus.
Right. So apologies for the second attempt there, but glad that we were able to get the volume working. So as you can see through the video, and we'll chat a little bit more, Bentley Plus is an opportunity for students really to think about what they're getting engaged in on the Bentley campus, but how those experiences are helping them to learn the skills and the competencies that our employer partners have indicated that they're looking for. So back when Bentley Plus was in its sort of creation mode in the pre-pandemic, and then as we were coming out of the pandemic with our pilot program, we really wanted to look at what our employers and what campuses across the country were looking at in terms of these skills. So we looked at 16 different AAC&U values. We looked at 8 different NACE competencies and a cross-divisional team from student affairs really met to think about what skills do we know through the work that we do in student affairs, through our student involvement opportunities, which of these competencies can we really drive home with our students? So after we did some research, we did a little bit of a dive into each of these competencies. We landed on 11 that we felt were uniquely suited to the work that we do within the Division of Student Affairs. And we break those down into 3 categories. So this is what our diagram looks like for our Bentley Plus competencies currently. We have our competencies that fall under the think category. So those more cognitive abilities, critical thinking, ethical reasoning, problem solving. We have ACT, are those interpersonal skills, community engagement, dialogue, leadership, and teamwork. And then in our develop category, we have those intrapersonal skills. So identity awareness, resilience, well-being, and work ethic. So taking that theory, putting it into practice, we came up with these 11 competencies. And in a given year, we ask students to really think about which 2 to 3 competencies they may want to work on as they go throughout their programmatic experience. So students will, choose their competencies, and I'll talk in a minute about what a year in Bentley Plus looks like. But we ask students to focus on these competencies throughout the year, and we'll work with them in advising sessions to really help them understand their knowledge of these competency areas, their development in these competency areas, and through a rubric and some learning goals, we will articulate to students, at the end of each experience. Do we think you're in the foundational level? So really, you're beginning to be curious. You're beginning to explore what that competency may look like for you. Are you in the intermediate stage? So it's a heightened level of commitment and interest for students who end up in intermediate, gives them an opportunity for self-reflection and involvement. And then we have our students who really end up in the advanced category. So they are able to show a strong commitment to growth in this competency area. They're able to articulate their experiences, define this competency. And we're really fortunate that you'll have an opportunity to hear from one of our students in the program a little later, Alyssa, who does an exceptional job in her work with the Bentley Plus program. And I'm also really proud to share that Alyssa is one of our students who will be graduating this year, but she has hit all 11 of our competencies. So Alyssa has been a part of this program for the last 4 years. So as we navigate students through the Bentley Plus program, as you can see on the left-hand side here, we have our competencies, but we also have some of our learning goals, right? So as students navigate through the program, our hope is that they're able to demonstrate an understanding of the importance of, sustainability, ethics, and social and organizational responsibility. Can they apply a set of future-focused skills? So as they're thinking about, organizational responsibility, workforce, social, that community engagement, are they able to articulate how what they're learning through their involvement through these competencies can really set them up for future success? Expanding cultural and diversity competencies, communicate and collaborate effectively in different settings, and really exhibit curiosity and critical analysis. So how can they think about their experiences and the opportunities they have to grow here on the Bentley campus? So this is what a year in the Bentley Plus program looks like, and I'll walk through each of these just briefly here. But so advising session one happens in the fall semester, so students have an opportunity to learn about Bentley Plus through their orientation experience, and when they arrive on campus, they have an opportunity to interact with Bentley Plus at the activities fair, or to sign up at one of our advising sessions. But they'll come in and they'll work with our staff advisors. Our staff advisors are 45 professionals within the Division of Student Affairs who are committed to student growth, to student development, but also have been trained in sort of the Bentley Plus program as well. So students will work with our advisors. They'll learn a little bit about each of our competencies. And based on what they are interested in participating in on campus, if they're a first year student or if they're an upper class student, what have they already been involved in? Which competencies do they feel really resonate with them? And then we ask students to participate in co-curricular experiences as they go throughout their fall and spring semester to really, dive into that Bentley experience. We invite students back to advising session two in the late fall or early spring to do a deep dive into their competency development. So what have they been participating in throughout the fall semester? Can they define their competency? Can they begin to articulate how they're growing in these areas? Advising session three happens post spring break in the spring semester. And this is really our opportunity for students to do some reflection on their year as a whole, their growth, their development. But it's also an opportunity using a STAR method worksheet for them to practice marketing themselves. So how can they talk about their skills or an experience in which they had to use dialogue or critical thinking? What was that situation? How did they work through whichever problem may have arisen? And what was the end result of them using that particular skill? And then, as we do here at Bentley, we love to celebrate our students. So we end the year with a celebration where students have an opportunity to be recognized for the work that they do in the program and across campus. But one of the benefits of Bentley Plus in its current design is that it's really, designed with multiple on-ramps for accessibility. So students can start right in the fall semester when they arrive to campus. They can get involved a little bit later in the fall semester if they're still trying to navigate what it means to be a college student and how they're getting acclimated to campus. But students also have an opportunity to join us in the spring semester. So we don't want to exclude students who join us as January admits. So we make sure that there's an availability for them to participate as well. And then we also have had a number of opportunities to engage with campus partners for student employment opportunities. So our resident assistants go through the program. This year, all of our first year student athletes have engaged in the Bentley Plus program. So as we continue to grow and expand the program, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later, we're really trying to provide as many opportunities for students to engage in this program and to gain those tangible skills as we can. So that's a little bit about the Bentley Plus program and its current design. And certainly, we'll have some time during the panel or after to answer questions that you may have. But one of our initiatives as we think about the future of Bentley Plus was really connecting with our business and industry partners. And I'd love to turn it over to Lauren to talk a little bit about this experience and some of the feedback that we received.
Thanks, Jared. So through a process of engaging our employer and industry partners through either the career services advisory boards or through site visits that we did, a number of us from the division explored engagement with employers and whether our competencies were still resonating with employer partners. And the good news is through our experience, we found that employers are still seeking these durable skills. They're looking for students who have the critical thinking skills, who have the identity awareness, who are engaged in understanding their holistic well-being. And so we actually, in our process, coupled with our Gallup research that Bentley did together with Gallup, and with the advisory boards, we're able to gather information to see where the future of Bentley Plus could go. And I don't want to I'll give you a little preview, but really, Becky's going to share a little bit more about that in just a short few minutes. But the focus really was on how do we ensure that well-being is at the core of what our students are understanding in their first year here at Bentley. And so a lot of that work contributed to us being shared by employer partners that what they were seeing in their entry-level staff was an actual increase in a number of entry-level staff members that were taking time away from their jobs to manage their well-being. And while that's important to have that opportunity, we wanted to ensure that our students had the skill sets while they were here at Bentley and developed a stronger sense of skill sets around their holistic well-being. And that's where we're headed in the Bentley Plus 2.0 version, which we'll share a little bit more detail with. So you'll see the bullet points here on the right of your screen. Those are from our Gallup survey with with Bentley. And then you'll also see kind of different thought bubbles above this individual's head around well-being, not just being the physical or mental health of an individual, but also their connection to a campus community or to a community as a whole, an understanding of purpose and goals and vision, of personal development and intellectual well-being, financial security, physical health, mental health, emotional health, and balance, and family and friend support networks. So we wanted to capture all of those pieces and ensure that our students understood that that baseline essentially is what we were focused on in the first year. And so you'll see that as we continue to expand Bentley Plus. Well-being has always been a core competency of the Bentley Plus program. And so what we're just looking to do is expand our students' holistic well-being in that area. Also identifying that community engagement and community connection and belonging is a vital portion of that. So our employers, we've tested this a little bit in the market with our employers. They understand that they're interested in engaging in these, ensuring that students that come out of Bentley have these durable skills in relation to their academic skill set that they're gaining in the classroom. I'm going to turn it back over to Ashley for a panel where some questions will be asked and answered by my amazing colleagues on this call.
Thank you both. So I'd like to welcome Alora, class of 2017, and Alyssa, class of 2025, who will lend insights from their perspectives. So please briefly introduce yourselves and we'll get the conversation started.
Thanks, Ashley, and hi, group. Alora Kingston, pronouns she, her. I'm a talent acquisition and HR projects professional. Currently, I work at Boston Consulting Group. They keep me busy. I work as a global business partner. I oversee like a portfolio of global functions, and I help with hiring strategies. I own like full cycle recruiting activities. I'm also a big and active member of what we call our Inclusion Accelerator Network. So it's all about supporting BCGers and emphasizing for everyone our culture of inclusion, which is really critical to why I think our business does a great job at what we do. And then really quick, prior to BCG, of course, I was at Bentley. I actually got my MBA from Bentley as well. So I came back. I was a boomerang student. And then I worked at a staffing firm for some time as a recruiter. I recruited at New York Life, an insurance company. And then I did a brief stint at Aldi, the global grocery chain, as a district manager. That's a little bit about me.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Mangini. I'm a senior at Bentley. I use she, her pronouns. I was a corporate finance and accounting major in my undergrad, and I'm currently a part of Bentley's Advanced Standing in Finance program. So taking classes to earn my master's in finance. And like Jared said, I've been a part of Bentley Plus since my first year. So I've had a great opportunity to focus in on all of the competencies Bentley Plus offers.
Great. And also while we're at it, Becky, if you want to introduce yourself now, by all means.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rebecca Jimenez, and I'm the Associate Dean for Wellbeing and our Bentley Plus program here at Bentley University.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. First question related to personal experiences. Can you describe a situation where you've had to use a durable skill in your role? To anyone on the panel who would like to answer, you can just unmute.
I'm happy to start us off. Oh my gosh, I like durable skills are so relevant in literally everything I do all day. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to participate in this program like you are, Alyssa. So really cool to look back and be so proud of Bentley. But um, I work, doesn't matter what part of role or what I'm doing in my day-to-day responsibilities, but any project that I work on is typically cross-functional. And what I mean by that is there are a number of different people involved in, whatever project at hand. So if I use an example from my own recruiting experience, maybe we're hiring for a specific position. Let's say I'm trying to hire a procurement professional, and it's going to be a procurement professional that helps hire for our marketing function and the types of like contracts and vendors and resources that our marketing team needs. As a recruiter, I have specific KPIs. I want to fill this role like quickly. I want to do it efficiently. I want to give a good candidate experience. The hiring manager and the procurement function really want someone who's a procurement expert. They understand all the buzzwords, category management. I could throw all that stuff at you, but point being, they know what they want to hire and have a specific skill set. And then on the interview cadre, there's someone from the marketing function and they want someone who knows everything about marketing. And the overarching theme here is you get a bunch of different people in the room with different perspectives and different needs, but we now have to work together as a team. And I'm the quarterback of that team as a recruiter. And it's my job to employ my skills and understand empathy with all these different dynamic perspectives, bring us together and say, how are we going to work forward? How am I going to be decisive? How can I make sure that we're communicating with each other? How am I collecting feedback, evaluating feedback? How are we making ethical and thoughtful and thinking critically and creatively about our hiring decisions? So, I mean, that's part of my job every single day in the recruiting space. So that's my big example.
The first example that comes to mind for me is a project I worked on this past summer. So I got to be a finance intern at Liberty Mutual, and my like summer long basically project was taking data from like the data source, and I put it in Excel, and I had to make the whole like table that other people would then use to like close the books at the end of the month. But although I got to have my manager kind of like show me the introduction steps of how to pull the data, make the table, there was definitely a lot of like independence that he gave me to figure it out on my own, which I think was a very, very valuable experience. But just the idea of trying to like use my Bentley skills, the things I've learned about Excel and finance, I felt like I was just pulling in a lot of critical thinking, problem solving, maybe not succeeding the first time I did it. So there was a lot of work ethic, resilience involved. And that was one of those moments that I really got to see how a lot of the competencies or just the skills that I've picked up through Bentley Plus or being a student in general, really they come together a lot and they overlap a lot. So that was one of those times that I felt like my durable skills really got to get put to good use.
I love that. In your experiences, how would you say employers have supported the development of durable skills? Alternatively, you could share how you wish they have supported the development of durable skills.
So in the past couple of companies that I've worked with, and I'm drawing on BCG experience, but also prior, I've seen a lot of variation in like how much companies actually talk about the value of durable skills. So there's our technical skills, like how good are we at Excel, right? And then there's like, okay, but if I don't know how to do something Excel, the durable skills, but how do I now go about problem solving, finding resources for help, also having a growth mindset and saying, I don't know how to do this yet, using that word yet, right? So I think companies and that kind of indicates growth mindset. Like I will get there. I'm not gonna, have a mental breakdown and, throw my hands up. I will get there. So what's stood out to me is from company to company, just the way that they normalize talking about durable skills. Some companies I've worked at, and BCG being one of them, that does a really great job, but they'll offer mentorship programs, coaching programs. Personally, I've been part of like a people management like soft skills, learning and upskilling my own emotional intelligence, which is really critical. So these are like it's shown by the business that, and it's talked about that these are skills that are really important. And then there's also sort of formalized feedback at BCG and at other companies I've worked with related to these types of skills. So it's actually part of the structure of, hey, at the start of the year, what are some of your goals and aspirations? And, we're all learning, no one is perfect. So where do you want to brush up? And then, hey, at the end of year end, there's that list kind of gets resurfaced and you're discussing like, how did I think about these? How do I self-reflect on some of these examples, like ways that we're talking about it today? So I think it's that culture of discussing durable skills.
The thing that oh, sorry.
Nope, go ahead, Alyssa, please.
Oh, I was going to build off that a little bit. The thing that I definitely noticed, the managers or the other people on my team that I worked with this previous summer encouraged me to work on the most was problem solving. So like if I were to ask some questions or just be honest that I was like really confused with what was going on, I feel like they were good about giving me the introductory answers or giving me like the trail or the hints to get there. But then really believing that if I could just use that information, I would be able to probably answer a lot of my own questions, which I really appreciated because I think that's where a lot of growth comes from.
Ashley, I'll just add, when we met with industry partners and when we talked to our employers, we're actually seeing a large increase in that chief well-being officer role in different organizations. And so where I think that not only has a lot of industry created spaces and talks about durable skills and adds value in places or upskills folks in durable skills, I think there's a number of companies that are also adding to their workforce individuals who are responsible for the well-being of the employees that work in that organization. And so we actually talked to a few of them, industry, and they shared things like that the skill sets that they're seeking from candidates coming into employment is understanding their holistic well-being, but also understanding how to navigate the plethora of resources that most organizations are now offering employees related to well-being. And Ashley, Becky, and Jared, we see it right here at Bentley, how much is invested in our well-being and our personal health, as well as our, making sure that we have connection and belonging in this Bentley community. And so we see that often in higher ed, but we're also seeing it across many industries with industries putting resources, both financial and physical resources, to the holistic well-being of its employees.
Thank you. Thinking about the hiring process, so switching gears a little bit, we had a question submitted in advance asking what's the hardest part of making a decision on hiring a candidate. And I also want to couple that with how have you either demonstrated in an interview the durable skills, or what have you looked for when hiring new team members, and identifying, making sure that they possess those durable skills?
Coming from the recruiting space, I could spend 30 minutes in answering this question. So I love the question. Thank you for whoever submitted it, whether you're here today or watching the recording. But I'm going to start with what qualities do we look for, or do folks maybe look for? I'll speak from my own experience in teams and watching other teams again at BCG and prior. But I think looking for candidates who are curious, who have degrees of self-awareness, and then also who have an effective communication style. And I say effective communication style because communication can look really different, like cross-culturally, it can be dynamic, people have different ways of presenting themselves. But what we're looking for there is, do they speak, in some type of structured way? And at the end of the day, like it does their point hit, and are they aware of their audience, right? So are they giving like the appropriate amount of context? So that's the communication piece. Curiosity, like, does someone have a genuine desire to understand? There's that famous quote about like seek first to to understand before trying to be understood. So I think it stands out when you're a candidate and you're in an interview process, you're trying to get hired and you're exploring, like it's okay to ask questions and clarify. If someone asks you a question and you're not clear on it or you need a little bit more context, lead with curiosity. And that really truly shines through. As an interviewer, like sometimes I'll also ask candidates questions about, tell me about a time when you were under like significant pressure and how did you deal with that? So really vague. So it's, put it in your own context, but you tell me what was that really hard assignment that you worked through or some deadline that was really challenging or the Excel, model you were working through and whatever the situation was. And what we're looking for is that degree of self-awareness. So there's really no wrong answer because you can deal with pressure in a million different ways, and however you do it is absolutely okay. But just being able to say, like, honestly, here's how I deal with it. I, take a step back, or I manage my work-life balance, or I calendar block on my calendar, or, I do yoga. There's a million different answers, and I could feed you a bunch of them. But point being, just someone's purely answering that tells me, like, okay, good. They've thought about this. They've thought introspectively how they manage these situations because they're going to be under pressure in this role and really any role. So those are some of the things that we look for and like how we kind of qualify them. I think the second question you asked a couple, Ashley. So maybe I'll pause there. I don't know if anything to add from others in the panel, and then I could maybe add on in some other ways, but.
Yeah, Laura, I'd just love to add in, exactly what you were just talking about is what we're asking our students to do in their third session of the Bentley Plus program. So can they run through that scenario? Can they, articulate their growth in those areas? So we're trying, as part of the Bentley Plus program to set them up for success in those interview spaces so that if somebody in HR, the interviewer, the recruiter, whomever it may be, is asking them to, tell me about a time where you've used dialogue, or you might be in a situation where you have to lead a team. What was that experience like for you? How have you done that? So I think I mentioned it briefly earlier, but it just lines up so perfectly as we're in that stage of the program now. But we ask students to go through a STAR method worksheet for each of their competencies. So we ask them to think about a particular situation in which their competency was present for them, right? What was the situation? Can they really articulate that for us? What was the task that they were charged with in that moment? What action steps did they take in order to, work through that situation to accomplish that task? And what was the end result for them? So all of our students who go through Bentley Plus have an opportunity to, try to feed into that by answering each of those questions for each one of their competencies. So we ask them to talk about all three in those particular moments. So I don't know. I loved your example because I was like, "Ooh, that means we're
You're
still in
doing
good
it
shape
right.
here.
The
We're
STAR
doing it."
method is another one. That's what we look for, right? That's structured communication as well by framing it, the situation, the task, the action, the result. And sometimes I'll add, it's not as cutesy, but STARL. What did you learn? The L
Yes.
at the end. What did you learn in sort of retrospect? We'll add that sometimes too. But yeah, good add, Jared.
So then, Alyssa, I invite you if there's any scenario in your life around, that next step for you or getting a job where you've used the STAR method, referred to a durable skill. If you have a story you'd like to share about a moment where you're like, yes, like all of it, all that practice, all of that work, connecting all the dots, like I demonstrated it here. If there's something that sticks out to you.
The main thing is just that I have used all of my STAR method worksheets again after I did them in the Bentley Plus session. I pulled them out when I was writing things on my resume and I wanted to like strengthen how I'm really getting the skills across. I've used them to like prep for the interviews just to jog those memories of like if I get a question about tell me a story, you used this skill or this skill. So they really like bring me back to when I was I guess, in the zone with that competency and how I really feel like I learned or grew from focusing on it. So I've appreciated that in the beginning of my professional career. And then I had a great chance to just like see how it can all really come together for something good when I got a return offer from my internship. So I just feel like the way I was able to work with a lot of the others on my team, really share how the way I'm using my Bentley degree will be valuable to the team, even just beyond my couple weeks in the summer. So that was a great moment that I feel like I got to see a lot of hard work come together.
Amazing. So there might be some folks in the audience who are building a team, have never built a team, but are curious what that might look like for them. What are some strategies that are effective in building a team that can grow in the organization, relating to the durable skills or anything else that comes to mind, to help feel like they are able to, think of a certain criteria or, just curious, Alora or anyone else, what could be good advice for those who are looking to build a team, and strategies that are effective, in approaching that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think build a team with durable skills. It's,
Period.
we talk a ton about, and I'm going to relate it back to like, someone had submitted that question about like, what's one of the hardest things to figure out when you're deciding hiring a candidate? And one of them is like judging someone's um, potential versus like their skills, right? And I think some of the best teams are built when we hire folks who are hired for their potential, their ability to learn, their growth mindset, and their ability to say, I'm self-aware that I am not excellent at this, but here's how I plan to get better. Here's where I'm headed. Here's my growth mindset. Here's an example of something I actually didn't know how to do before and how I worked around it, thought critically, leaned on my colleagues, and I learned and grew. So point being, hiring and building teams based on their potential, their mindset, their willingness to learn, their willingness to grow, their willingness to collaborate, is what I've seen to be most successful. And then, of course, the skills element comes into play naturally. But the durable skills, we can't lose sight of those. You don't want a bunch of experts in a room that are really good at one thing, but they don't have durable skills. It will create friction within the team. I think encouraging within a team, like open feedback, peer learning, things like shadowing programs. So, learn my perspective by watching me do what I do. It'll help us, and then I'll do the same for you. And then that helps us work together. And then it comes back to, like Alyssa, you mentioned, "Oh, I was struggling with this, and I had to kind of go back to my managers and I had to be honest with them and say, I don't know where to go with this." But you had some degree of psychological safety to admit that. And that was, an effective moment where you made that decision. So anyway, your team had a culture of of psychological safety, which is really, really critical. So if you're a leader building a team, it is absolutely your responsibility to ensure that you're creating that culture of openness. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. Some companies will even instead of using the word mistake or failure, they say it's a glitch. So now they've changed the whole culture of oh, just a glitch, which sounds better than oops, I dropped the ball. Some companies will even celebrate, or teams will celebrate the failure of the month, who took a risk, did what they could, and now we can laugh about it in retrospect. So, building a team and creating that culture is really important.
I'm wondering if anyone else has anything that they want to share about other ways that, durable skills contribute to long-term success of a team. Beyond some of the examples that Alora had shared, around culture being a long-term, commitment for a team. So those are amazing. But if there's any other comments, feel free to unmute. And I also want to invite the audience too. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in. We've got about 8 minutes left of the Q&A. So if there's anything that's on your mind, drop that in the chat, or the Q&A box, and we'll get to it. All
Teams
right.
that have just strong well-being, teams that like are willing to communicate, teams that are willing to learn, like they glue better. They also bounce back better from setbacks. So I can't emphasize that piece enough. I think people who get really rattled by a failure or a mistake, and don't have those durable skills to navigate the ambiguity, think creatively, work together through it, will have a harder time. So longer term, like again, the durable skills that glues the team together and it helps them move forward. It also like allows people to learn from each other. It's that openness, and I think it's really important for long term too. Starting a team, but longer term success.
Yeah, and I really like, Alora, what you shared about the psychological safety piece, right? Like feeling like you have that space within your team to like have those vulnerable moments. And even if it's like, yeah, I'm not in a good place today, and here's what I may need, or knowing enough about your team to also recognize when somebody else may be having a hard day. So then it's those supportive questions of, what do you need for me, or can I be in this space for you so that you don't have to be in this, public facing space, or you don't have to be, in this meeting. So I think, long term team is really, also getting to know what works, what are the stressors for the other people on your team? How do you celebrate success at the same time so that, that psychological safety, I think, is just so important to that long-term success of a team.
Jared. I had a question that just dropped in that says, how does the holism of durable skills reflect on a person's ability to perform their job at a high level and allow them to climb the corporate ladder? How do the durable skills correlate with one another and create synergistic effects?
I don't think that you will be, or I know that the most successful leaders are folks that invest in their durable skills. You can be an expert, a subject matter expert at some really technical skill, but you will hit a ceiling if you can't. You don't necessarily have to be a people manager. So being like a leader of a team doesn't necessarily have to be your goal, but to work with others, to also have personal like well-being in your job. And to feel like you communicated effectively, you communicated what you needed that day. You also empathized or sympathized with someone else on your team and how they were showing up that day. So I think they all come together in one. I also want to call out that there is no like, okay, I reached it. I'm good on all these fronts, right? Today, my communication skills are, not as good as maybe they were yesterday and vice versa. And you just have to be really aware of that. But durable skills are just like a huge part of growing as a professional and continuing to develop and invest in them. So Alyssa, you've gone through this program, which is amazing. And then I hope you come back to Bentley in like 5, 10, or next year, whatever, and say, like, here's how I've grown even further with what I've learned, because it really is that longer journey.
Think then to even take that question where it's like how do they like intersect? And Laura, you were sort of talking a little bit about that when you were kind of taking that scan of like your communication in a way, like one day I'm really doing great at communication, the next day I'm not. When I think of the opportunity for like compounding some of the competencies, I think a little bit about like looking at well-being and then looking at dialogue, right? Like is this the right moment when having a challenging conversation with someone to do that conversation based off of that well-being, right? Or is this the right moment to be doing this critical problem solving that you need to do? Like, what's my quick scan of myself and my own well-being at this moment? And how am I going to be successful in being able to use that additional competency is something that is so critical. I know for myself, I've sometimes had to walk away for a moment to like take that quick scan to figure out how I'm going to either have that conversation or how to best solve that problem, to be able to ask myself, like, where am I right now? So that way I can be successful in that next thing.
Yeah. Since we have just a couple more minutes left of the panel discussion, I want to invite Alyssa from your student experience in the Bentley Plus program. Is there anything else that you want to share with audience members of your experience that we didn't get the chance to touch on with questions?
There's nothing specific that we haven't really touched on through the questions that I feel like we've touched on a lot of like the broader things I've taken from Bentley Plus. But the great thing that I guess I want to say about the program is that it really helped me focus on what I wanted to do in my time at Bentley. So I feel like there's definitely this idea when you come to Bentley that you want to like get involved as soon as possible, which is a great thing. But it's a good idea to focus on the things that maybe you're more passionate about or where things that you haven't done before, but you want to grow in. So I appreciated having the program early on to decide like where I wanted to use my time and where I wanted to grow my skills. And I think that that's definitely something that I'll take into starting a job and just having a lot of, I feel like, free time in life, maybe when I don't have school, like where I want to focus this time, maybe the new things I want to try. So that's definitely been how I would encourage somebody to participate in the Bentley Plus program because I feel like I took something valuable from it that I'll carry with me past graduating this spring.
Amazing. Well, as I think about the future, why don't we transition to Bentley Plus 2.0 and carry on to our next segment of the program, unless anyone has any other thoughts that they want to shout out. Right, without further ado.
Can you all see that? Okay. So thank you so much for having me here. And I think what a great timing of this to be able to share the Bentley Plus 2.0. So like hearing where the program currently is and then having this panel, we've already made so many connections to where we hope to go. And so I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity for me to present this content. As Lauren had shared earlier, she shared a little bit about the why, the change in the program. And so to begin our conversation, I thought it was really important for us to really explore the definition of well-being. And for myself to be able to do that, you can kind of search these, you can search the word wellness, you can look up well-being. Companies are using different definitions, just as the same as universities. And so we wanted to be able to take the definition that several of our associations within higher education are using. So 3 critical ones, NERSA, NASPA, and ACHA, are huge within our student affairs umbrella, and they came together to define well-being and then brought on board a number of the other associations that you see on this screen. From their definition, they looked at the concept of this dynamic state. So when you think of your own well-being, you think about the opportunity to be able to achieve your full potential. You then are looking at how is it focusing on the individual's well-being, but then looking at community well-being as well. So it's the concept of being able to think about it, that it's bigger than a person, that it considers the individual, but it also considers the systems that they're in. So thinking about an individual within a company, so that would be obviously the individual and then the system being the company. So it is taking the space to be able to embrace an individual well-being. So looking at someone in regards to their happiness, what's bringing them joy, what is the satisfaction in their life. Are they feeling a sense of belonging within the company or organization that they're in? Are their basic needs and life factors being met? And then what is their contribution to that community? All of those pieces have an impact on an individual's well-being. But then you take another look and you look at community well-being and you look at the relationships and the connectedness within that community. You think about the quality of life for all the people in that specific community, and then how well does that community meet those needs of those members? And then lastly, it's looking at the systems and settings. So what are the policies and the practices of that organization, and how are they thinking about all individuals within that community? This approach looks at community well-being being more multifaceted. It's a goal that is making it possible for everyone taking responsibility in one's well-being, along with what's happening in the community. It takes such a larger approach. So for myself, it's not looking at one place taking responsibility for community well-being. It's making the whole organization think about community well-being. And then for my visual learners, I sometimes think images go a long way. And sometimes where the confusion goes between wellness and well-being, when you think of wellness, you're thinking of a focus on one specific aspect or one's dimension of one's health. So you may have an image in your mind about that wellness wheel, and then this image on the left really shows like how you might be working specifically in that one aspect of that focus. But if you then think of well-being, you take that wellness picture to the left, and then you look to the one on the right. You start seeing that you can take all of those aspects and elements of an individual, their lifestyle, all of their external factors, and how they all intersect. And that is what well-being is. It's about understanding that one day an individual might be doing just great because everything is going well. Their basic needs are met. They've found joy in what project they're working on. They're seeing more steps towards their future. And then the next day, things may have gone wrong, which has an impact of a well-being, but it's acknowledging that those aspects are making an impact on someone. So where we hope to go with the program, and this is our draft image. Jared had shared a little bit earlier about our an image with us. It had 3 circles, right? It had the develop, it had the think, and the act. My thought process on where this program goes is having the understanding that develop is the circle that goes around all of the competencies. So thinking about thinking and acting. But before diving even further into specific competencies, it's about focusing on that develop domain first. So our suggestion and what we're working on is how do we rearrange some of the competencies in each domain? And how do we rethink that community engagement competency and explore and first look at, do we first have students engage in exploration of the community, move to community engagement, and then how do we get everyone to think about investment? So how do you give back to Bentley University? How do they speak on everything that their experience was and brought to them? And then how do we have them come back and participate? The other piece to this is thinking a lot about develop. So looking at the develop domain and what a student would need to be able to be successful in understanding oneself is thinking a lot about their own well-being, their identity awareness, and then that community exploration. All 3 areas that you were able to hear through Lauren of what companies are looking for in their employee. So our hope would be able to get students to be thinking about that developed domain as they engage and further work within their competencies, either in the thinking or acting kind of categories. The goal would be to start threading those additional competencies into, if I focus on the first year, a new student experience, thinking about the courses that they take in that first year. So not having so many competencies that first year, but how are they taking or thinking about problem solving, because they're in very specific classes that will be working on problem solving already. And then how do they then engage with an advisor or one-on-one coaching sessions to be able to continue to focus on the developed domain, but then think a little bit about some of those additional competencies that they're gaining by working through their courses here at Bentley. For our sophomores through seniors, they would continue to be self-selecting those competencies. And for the BentleyPlus program, it's sort of catching them up on that developed domain while they're self-selecting those additional competencies that they want to work on. How we're thinking about doing this is this image right here is showing you a little bit about a new student experience, and then through the academic year, what all students would gain. So for a new student's experience, they attend the summer onboarding program. Our goal would be to introduce the well-being and share some tips and transition ideas. Through the August orientation program, they would then dive a lot more into what is individual well-being, community exploration, and identity awareness, while developing their own personalized roadmap and setting goals on how they want to accomplish that. They'd have the space to understand campus resources and really introduce themselves to the Falcon community. Then throughout the academic year, there'd be periodically check-ins, opportunities for individual coaching, revisiting those goals that they set, looking at opportunities for participation in campus events, and then thinking a lot about how do we go back and look at our plan and revisit our well-being plan to help us through our competency explorations. And then finally, by doing that, we're really thinking about when you think about the competency program beginning with developing, it will help the student with better understanding of their individual well-being, understanding one's identity awareness and building awareness of others, building their connections with their Falcon community. And our hope would be that it would have more of a significant impact on their next few years at Bentley University. The other piece to this and our future goal is really thinking about how to expand and include student employment into future opportunities. My view on it is that that program, or being able to help students make those connections within their student employment positions here, really helps a student really connect those competencies while exploring community well-being and their own individual well-being. So it's a no-brainer. It helps with thinking, and it gets the students to really connect a lot with acting, helps develop those bullets or those conversational pieces as they're going on to their interview as well. This is the hope, kind of where we would head to. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any of those questions.
Well, thank you. And thank you to all of our presenters, our panelists, for giving their time, expertise, stories, examples, all the little nuggets. I hope you all walked away with a takeaway that was most meaningful to you. I just want to quickly plug our Bentley Alumni Conference, which is another chance to continue this conversation, as well as explore some other engaging topics such as AI, innovation, beauty industry, mindfulness, and many others on campus May 8th and May 9th. We've got a few really cool keynote speakers lined up, and so I'm just going to drop in the chat to you all the registration link, and I will follow up after this program concludes with the recording, with the Bentley Alumni Conference link, and then if you have any other questions, you can reach out to me directly. But otherwise, thank you to everyone on the call and you attendees who have been able to learn a little something today, and enjoy the rest of your days.